and welcome to the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs for the City of Seattle Citizenship Workshop Training for Interpreter and General Volunteers. Today, we're going to talk about why citizenship matters, a little bit about citizenship workshops, go over volunteer roles and expectations, and talk a little bit about who can become a citizen. First, why citizenship matters. There are many reasons to become a U.S. citizen, and everyone decides for their own reasons. However, there are some key benefits to becoming a U.S. citizen. First off, you can vote. Also, you're a permanent part of our country, and you get the sense of belonging and ownership that comes with it. Also, the ability to bring your family to the United States or to help your family become citizens themselves is increased. Becoming a U.S. citizen can give your children under 18 automatic citizenship and can help you bring more family members to the United States more quickly. For example, spouses, minor children, parents, and siblings. Also, there's increased access to some government jobs, public benefits, and scholarships. There's also no fear of deportation. Even a relatively minor crime like a DUI, bar fight, or possession charge can mean deportation for some non-citizens. U.S. citizens do not have to worry about deportation in the event that they make a mistake. Also, you can travel on a U.S. passport. Legal permanent residents face restrictions on the length of time that they can be outside the United States, and sometimes restrictions about the countries that they can visit. Becoming a U.S. citizen removes those restrictions. There are 23,000 green card holders in Seattle, 70,000 in the King County area, and 180,000 eligible green card holders in Washington State. Less than 10% have applied for citizenship. Why is that? There are many barriers to becoming a citizen, and everyone embarks on the process in their own time for their own reasons. However, some of the key barriers that we see are cost $680 for a single person to apply, and can cost $3,000 to $5,000 in legal fees if you need the assistance of an attorney. There's also difficulties with the English or civics exam. You must speak and read English to be able to apply. In addition, you must be able to pass the civics and history exam. There's a lot of fear and confusion around the process. Especially for refugees, government processes may be associated with fear and trauma. In addition, the process is confusing, and the paperwork is written in complicated English, and it's very long. Also, the process is not without some risk. So many legal permanent residents have genuine concerns about starting the citizenship process by themselves. Finally, there's a lack of available assistance. There are many more people who would like legal assistance with the citizenship process than can access it. And there are many more people who would like access to ESL or citizenship classes than there are currently citizenship and ESL classes available. There are often long waits or difficulty finding a time that works for that individual. I want to talk briefly about the citizenship process. The most difficult step in the citizenship process is often the first one, to become a legal permanent resident. People become legal permanent residents in a variety of different ways I'm not going to get into here. However, you must become a legal permanent resident, green card holder, prior to applying for citizenship. After you become a legal permanent resident, you must wait between 3 and 5 years to be eligible to apply for citizenship. Once you are eligible, you can apply for naturalization with an N-400 application. The application is long and complicated and can be risky if there are any problems. This is the step that we do at citizenship workshops. After someone applies, it can take 3 to 4 months to get an appointment to get their fingerprints taken. After another few months, they'll get an appointment for their interview. Here, a USCIS officer will review their application, ask them any questions, and assess their English. If they pass the interview, they will be given a 10-question civics exam out of 100 possible questions. They must get at least 6 right. If they pass their interview and exams, they will take the oath of citizenship and officially become a citizen. Often, this citizenship ceremony happens the very same day. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about how citizenship workshops function. A citizenship workshop is a day-long free legal clinic to help eligible legal permanent residents become citizens. Workshops are staffed by volunteers like you. Volunteers range from general volunteers to extremely experienced immigration attorneys, to interpreters, to community volunteers who work with lenders to help people get the money for citizenship loans. Clients move through stations to fill out and review their paperwork, get resources to prepare, and find out more information about the process. This is the perfect way to help many people get started on the citizenship process at once. However, it's not the right place for everyone. So who can we help in the citizenship workshop? Citizenship workshops are perfect for eligible legal permanent residents with uncomplicated applications. People with complicated cases, for example, people who have past criminal convictions or who have complication due to travel or marriage or children or other special circumstances, may need more support than we can give at a citizenship workshop. One of the most important things we do is figure out which clients can be helped at a workshop and who needs a referral for one-on-one help. People who should be referred for one-on-one help are generally people who need a little bit more assistance navigating the process. We have wonderful partners who offer free one-on-one assistance for people applying for citizenship in their offices. Anyone who might need more support will be referred to one of these partners. This includes people who have complicated or risky application, or people who simply need a little bit more help navigating the process. Because we help people at a citizenship workshop, but we don't accompany them to the interview or other steps along the way. People who should be referred to our partners include people who need medical or disability waivers, like people with dementia, people who've suffered a stroke, people who need to learn more English before passing the interview, and people who have complicated cases because of past arrests, convictions, extended travel, or other serious red flags. This is just for your information. Our volunteer attorneys will make the final decision about who should be referred to one-on-one help. We wanted to give you an example and a sense of who we can help at a citizenship workshop. Now let's talk about volunteer roles and expectations. Responsibilities for volunteers. The volunteers are the lifeblood of citizenship workshops. We absolutely could not do them without you. You will staff the entire workshop, which means we count on you. We need you to come prepared. That means reviewing your role before you come and knowing what to expect. It also means packing your patience. Citizenship workshops can often be very hectic with a lot of moving pieces and clients who've been waiting sometimes hours before we even open the doors. Also, we need you to be on time and prepare to stay the full day. If you have any questions, ask your station lead and they can help answer them. Finally, be kind, courteous, and flexible with all of the clients. What to expect. We ask you to arrive at 8 a.m. to check in, get coffee and breakfast. It's very important to arrive on time. We have a lot to go over in the morning. You'll need coffee and breakfast to get through the day. Also, clients always show up early. We want to make sure we get started on time so we can help as many people as possible. If you are working at the registration desk, you may actually be asked to arrive a little bit earlier. But for most volunteers, 8 a.m. is when we need you. We officially open the doors at 10 a.m. There's almost always a line, much earlier. We try to keep people settled and started early if possible, especially at the first stations of the day. We will keep accepting clients until about 1 p.m. in the afternoon, or until we've reached capacity for the day, whichever happens first. Anyone who arrives after will get information about the next clinics and about our partners that they can see in their one-on-one offices. Wait times are long for clients. The process usually takes about 3 to 4 hours for each person, so clients can get hungry, frustrated, and bored. It's important that our volunteers are patient, calm, and cheerful. Now, although we close the doors at 1 p.m., we don't usually finish until around 5 p.m., as the last people work their way through the process and we have a chance to clean up. Flexibility is key. Things can change the day of. There can be rushes of clients. We may have a weather challenge, and we ask that you are ready to be flexible and pitch in where you're needed. Also, it's really important to be empathetic. This process can be scary. It involves some risk, and it also involves asking some very sensitive questions. We need to ask everyone about their criminal history, children, divorces, and finances. These are sensitive questions. Please try to understand the nerves, shame, and embarrassment that your client might be feeling. Be patient and kind. This can be a tough experience, but it's also a wonderful experience. Most of our clients leave feeling very excited and ready to start the next chapter of their lives. Now, a little bit about the flow of the workshop. As I said, people move from station to station, working their way throughout the process. There are 6 basic stations. The first is intake and greeting. This is where clients check in, check to see whether they have their paperwork and their green card with them, get their tracking form, and wait for the first step in the process. The next is screening. At the screening station, we check for red flags that may complicate their case and English language skills. If there's any questions, experienced attorneys will review the case and decide if the person should be referred out or can go forward. If a person is cleared to go forward by the screening station, they move to the form station. Here, paralegals, law students, non-immigration attorneys, and other trained volunteers help clients fill out their N-400 or citizenship application, and if they qualify, an I-912 or fee waiver form. Some low-income clients are able to apply for citizenship without paying the $608 fee. After the forms volunteers have filled out the application, the client will go to attorney review. Here, experienced immigration attorneys review all of the paperwork and the client's case and make sure that they're ready to go. Attorneys will either correct mistakes, clear the client to apply on their own, refer them to a partner for one-on-one help, or sometimes recommend that they don't apply at all. If the attorneys clear the client to go forward, they will go to the copying and packaging station to have their application prepared for mailing. Clients who don't qualify for a fee waiver, but who need help paying for the fee will have the option to go to a station to find out about a small citizenship loan that can help them pay the $680 fee. Anyone who's referred out at any time in the process will go to a referral expert who will make sure they have the information they need to continue on the next step with the appropriate partner. The exit station is one of the most important stations. It's where we collect our tracking form so we know what happened to each client, make sure they have all the referral information they need, and make sure they understand their next steps. There are many roles for volunteers at citizenship workshops. I'm going to go over a couple of the main roles, but please pay attention to each role, since even if you're assigned one role, you may be asked to switch during the day of. First, I'll talk about station leads, then intake and greeting volunteers, runners and spotters, interpreters, copy, referral, and packaging volunteers, and exit volunteers. Station leads. Each station has a station lead. They are the person in charge of that station. They are familiar with all of the paperwork and procedures for that station. They're the person you want to go to if you have any questions. They will also be providing training in the morning. Make sure you know who your station lead is and what your specific role within that station will be. Station leads are your first line of defense, but don't hesitate to ask questions. If there is a question they can't answer, they can get in touch with the workshop coordinators. Also, they will check the tracking form before each person leaves their station. This is a critically important thing. The tracking form is the only record we have of what happened to each client. It must be filled out at every station so we can follow what happened as someone moves throughout the process. Please do your job and fill out the tracking form and help your station lead make sure that the tracking forms are getting filled out in your station. As I mentioned, the tracking form is our only record of what has happened to the clients who come through the citizenship workshop. We don't keep copies of their applications. So it's very important that we get the information asked for on the tracking form filled out completely every time. First, let's talk about intake and greeting volunteers. The intake volunteers are our first line of defense. The more quickly and smoothly this area runs, the faster the process is up and running, and the more people we can help. Every client should sign in and be given a number. It's important to check that clients are here for citizenship. Oftentimes, people come with other questions about immigration law, and unfortunately, we're not able to answer those at citizenship workshops. However, we do have resources to help them find that answer with our community partners or other community resources. It's also important to make sure that they are basically eligible for citizenship. That means that they are a green card holder and that they have brought their green card with them and that they're over 18. Some clients will be pre-registered. You should have information about them in your registration folder. In that case, you'll just need to check them off the list and give them their registration materials. Some clients will not have registered online in advance. For these walk-in clients, you will need to give them the forms to fill out, sign them a number, and of course give them their tracking sheet. The tracking form, we'll go over this for each of the different stations, but the first part of the tracking form is what the intake volunteers do. You'll write the client's number in the appropriate box. Write down the applicant's name, phone number, language, and note if they need an interpreter or not. You'll also check off as you check that they have their green card and that they're over 18 years of age. The tracking form is a crucial record of each client. Please don't forget to do this important step, even when it gets hectic. Every client must have a tracking form. Follow them throughout the rest of the day. Now let's talk about the role of runners and spotters. Runners and spotters keep the trains moving on time and make sure that everyone moves efficiently between stations. Runners and spotters actually have one of the most important jobs of the whole day and are some of the people who make sure our clients have a really good experience rather than confusing one. Runners move clients from station to station, keeps them from getting lost, keeps the stations organized, and makes sure everyone ends up in the right place. Make sure to check in with your client to check their tracking sheet and make sure that you check them in with the next station lead when you get them to their destination. Runners are also really important to help station leads find volunteers, get key supplies, or solve other problems. There's also spotters. Oftentimes, in some of the larger stations, there'll be 50 to 100 people at a single station. If volunteer screeners, form fillers, or attorneys have a question, they will raise a card. Spotters work with the station leads that keep everything on track and make sure that people who have questions or need assistance aren't kept waiting for an answer. For runners, checking the tracking form is going to be an important piece of information. At the corner of the upper right-hand corner of the tracking station, the tracking form in the station that you're assigned to, there should be a gray box. It says send to station number, and there's a blank. The volunteers at the station you're starting from will fill out what station that client should go to next. This is your instruction for where the client should be taken to. It's also really important that you check that the tracking form is in fact filled out and return it to the last station if not. It's important that the client we have the full record of what happened to the client and that there's enough information for the next station to be able to give the client good advice. Now I want to talk about interpreters. Interpreters are critical to citizenship workshops. While some level of English is necessary to pass the English exam portion of the citizenship process, there are some people who qualify for a waiver, and there are others who speak some English but don't want to try to understand complicated questions that we have to ask at a citizenship workshop in English and would prefer to speak to someone in their first language. Interpreters will support clients who qualify for these English waivers and assist people who need that little extra help. Some interpreters will be assigned to each station and may float around as language needs fluctuate. As an interpreter, it's important to introduce yourself, explain to the client and the volunteer that you operate with confidentiality, you won't repeat what you hear, that you will use word-for-word translation, that you need them to speak slowly with pauses so that you can keep up the translation. And also it's important to remind the attorney or paralegal to speak to the client and not to you. We have translated versions of forms to help you and speed translation. If you can't find one, ask the station lead and they can help you track one down. Also, it's important to remind the client to pause for interpretation. Sometimes they forget. And interpreting is very hard work. Take breaks if you need to. Just let your station lead know. Now, a note on the interpreter statement. There's a portion of the N400 form that asks for information on the interpreter. You will need to sign this only if the client is applying for an English or disability waiver. Please fill out your information only if instructed to by the review attorney. For interpreters, flexibility is key. We never know exactly which languages we'll need or how many interpreters of each language we'll need because people show up the day of. So interpreters often will be employed as runners or in other stations such as intake, copying, when they're not interpreting. You may follow a client through all of the stations or stay at one station depending on what we need that day. Citizenship workshops are open to the public, but as I said, it's difficult to predict who is coming ahead of time. You may not have a client all day in the language you're interpreting, and this is unfortunate, but it's unavoidable sometimes. We really appreciate you being flexible, and we value you and your interpreting skills. We hope you will come back. Now I want to talk about copying and packaging. It's important to keep a copy of the citizenship application with the client so that they can review their own application when they have their interview, which can be up to 6 months later. There's also important documents we need to make a copy of. We need to make a copy of the front and back of the green card, a copy of their full N400, copy of any supporting documents. Packaging volunteers help put the application together, make sure that the client understands any pieces that are missing, and that it's all put together properly. You'll help put the completed application into the envelope that's already addressed with a certified mail slip. You'll use the barcode scanner to scan the certified mail slip into our database so that we'll know when it's mailed, and we'll walk the client through what to expect next in the citizenship process and remind them of any documents or information they may need to add. Also, please don't forget to fill out the tracking sheet. For exit station volunteers, usually exit, copying, and packaging are in the same place. For clients who are ready or almost ready to file, exit station volunteers will make sure that they know what to do next and what to expect, and that they have the appropriate resources. Then you'll collect the tracking sheet. This is critically important. You can't let anyone leave with the tracking sheet, or all the hard work we've done to track that person will be lost. For clients who are referred out because we won't be able to help them finish their application at a citizenship workshop, we'll need to track their tracking sheet for the reason why they're being referred out, ensure that they have the information for the appropriate partner organization, make sure the client understands why they're being referred out and what they should do next, and give them any resources they need. Examples of the kinds of resources we have are lists of ESL and citizenship classes, study materials, and examples of disability waivers or information on how to collect missing records. Even for clients who don't finish the process and are referred out, we must collect their tracking sheet. Please don't forget to do this. As I said, don't forget the tracking form. This is a portion that you would fill out if you were a referral expert, exit volunteer, copy and packaging volunteer. Referral experts will note that they gave the client the not ready to apply form, explained the reason why they were not able to be helped today, and gave them the appropriate information and referral. And there's a section for notes on any pertinent notes on that client. For those who are ready to file or almost ready to file, exit volunteers will note whether the client is entirely ready or just just missing a few pieces of information and what they're missing. They'll note that they explained the next steps, gave the application next steps document with any resources, made copies, addressed the envelope, scanned the envelope into our computer, double checked that the tracking sheet is complete, and collected the tracking sheet. There are some other volunteer roles you may be asked to fill. If we have enough volunteers, we may ask some volunteers to serve as story collection volunteers, collect the stories of our clients as they're waiting. We may also be asked to take pictures, tweet, or help with media. There's also a program that helps clients fill out their applications alone using a computer, a little bit like TurboTax for citizenship. If we have computers available, we may have Citizenship Works volunteers who are helping clients who are comfortable with computers and confident enough in English to give it a try on their own. You may need a little bit of assistance from you. You may be asked to be one of the Citizenship Works volunteers. Now I'm going to talk quickly about who can become a citizen. The basic naturalization eligibility requirements are that you must be at least 18 years old, have been a legal permanent resident for 5 years, or 3 years if married to a U.S. citizen. You must have been physically present inside the United States for at least half of the last 5 years, or 3 years married to a U.S. citizen. You must be a person of good moral character. You must be able to speak, read, and write some English. You must be able to pass the U.S. History and Civics test. And you must be willing to take the oath of allegiance. The most basic requirement is that people are 18 and over and that they're a legal permanent resident, otherwise known as a green card holder. This slide is just to let you know what some examples of green cards look like. There are many different types of green cards and they do all look a little bit different. You don't need to know what they all look like or exactly all the details. You just need to be able to recognize standard green card, especially if you're an intake volunteer. Citizenship is serious business. Citizenship workshops are designed to help eligible legal permanent residents with uncomplicated cases who can go through the rest of the process without some help. However, there are serious risks involved in a citizenship application. If you apply for citizenship when you should not, it can mean much more than disappointment and the loss of the $680 application fee. In some cases, it can even result in a person losing their legal permanent residency or even being deported. We're offering legal help with a very serious process. We need all of our volunteers to be careful, meticulous, and committed. The English requirement requires that people understand, speak, and read some basic English, not that they have perfect English. USCIS estimates that you must be able to hold a conversation at about a 4th grade level. If someone can hold a basic conversation about their application with you in English, they are probably ready to pass the English requirement. If someone doesn't qualify for an English exemption and they cannot talk to you in basic English, they are probably not ready. The exception is for a person is illiterate in English, then we must help them find some ESL ESL classes or resources, since they will unlikely be able to learn to read and write in English in the 3 to 6 month period of time before they actually have to take their exam. We encourage everyone who we believe is not ready to take ESL classes and study before applying. However, ultimately, this decision is up to the individual client if they want to take that risk. There are some exceptions to the English requirement, mostly for people who are older and have been legal permanent residents for a long period of time. If you are over 50 and have been a legal permanent resident for at least 20 years, or over 55 and have been a legal permanent resident for at least 15 years, You don't have to pass the English requirement. You must still pass a history and civics exam that is taken in the language of their choice. Unfortunately, there's no exception for age alone. So even a 95-year-old legal permanent resident who'd only been a legal permanent resident for 5 years would need to meet the English requirement. If a person has a medical condition or disability that prevents them from learning, such as a stroke, Alzheimer's, or dementia, they may be able to qualify for a medical waiver. These waivers are not a legal determination, but a medical one, and require a doctor to fill out the form. They don't require anyone who has a medical waiver to speak English or pass the civics exam. However, this standard is difficult to meet and, as I said, requires a doctor to fill out the form. We're unable to do these waivers at citizenship workshops, but we can refer people to our partners. The naturalization process involves a U.S. history and civics exam. There are 100 possible questions to study on U.S. history, geography, government, and culture. Applicants will be given 10 questions the day of their interview. They must get at least 6 right. Applicants are given all 100 possible questions to study in advance. Applicants who are over 65 and have been legal permanent residents for at least 20 years can take a shorter version with only 20 possible questions to study. As I said, anyone who qualifies for an English waiver can take the civics exam in the language of their choice. And as I mentioned before, anyone who has a permanent or long-lasting diagnosable medical reason that prevents them from learning English or civics can get a waiver. Common examples include stroke, dementia, and Alzheimer's. As I said, these are hard to obtain and require complicated paperwork. We cannot complete N648 or medical waivers at workshops. However, we can refer people to our partners to do in their offices. Now, I just want to leave you some last notes. Please take the time to read through the citizenship instructions, station instructions, before Citizenship Day. You could be assigned to any one of these stations, and we want you to be prepared. You'll also receive training in the morning, so please be on time. Keep an eye on your email. We'll be sending important updates as the date approaches. And volunteer roles are pre-assigned. If you can't make it, please let us know so we can shift the numbers around and make sure we have enough people at every station. Finally, giving your time means that hundreds of people can take the next step to becoming citizens, being able to vote, reunite with their families, and pursue their dreams. Without you, citizenship workshops would truly be impossible. Thank you so much for your time, your enthusiasm, your patience, and all of your energy. We really, really appreciate it.